One time when it was found out that he had this disease, I came here to the temple and he was delivering a most fabulous class. And I was absolutely convinced at that point that he was on the royal road back home, back to Godhead. And I saw that. I thought, this man is a saint. He's, because I've always called Tribhuvanatha Maharaj. I've always named him a Maharaj out of affection.
Tribhuvanatha was like a spiritual teacher to me. In ISKCON, a lot of confusion and maybe mystery or what is a guru and who is a guru. So basically, I just had a realization today that, you see, Tribhuvanatha completely didn't have any big profile or any big image, and he didn't like it, and he completely shied away from it. He told me one time that he wouldn't accept us as formally disciples, and he told me one time, he said, I'm very frightened of false prestige, and many of my godbrothers that I love very much have become affected by that. And he was under no illusion of the dangers of the material world just because you're in a spiritual institution. And he was very, very careful about those things, and actually that's real intelligence. Today I had the realization, so many people I was looking around the room and people were saying that he was like a guru to me, he did this, he said this to me, he inspired me this way and that way. And I saw that actually you don't have to try to figure out what is a guru or who is a guru, because it's sort of self-evident. Someone is a guru, it's a natural thing.
I just wanted to say that for us, in the beginning, Tribhuvanatha was ISKCON, he was everything in ISKCON. He used to lead sometimes Guru Puja with us all morning till 11 o'clock. He'd start off and we'd be all jumping off the walls. He just brought us to be able to do things for Krishna. Remember when we started, we just couldn't do anything, and he brought us to be able to actually do things for Krishna. I think in a way we joined Tribhuvanatha even more than joining ISKCON in some ways, because he was like a spiritual movement in a way. We used to record all his lectures, and I was listening to his lectures, and he caught me one day and he really blasted me. He didn't always shout at me, what are you doing? He said, why are you listening to this? And he wasn't trying to be falsely humble, but he was serious. He said, you should listen to Prabhupada. He said, listen to Prabhupada, he's on a different level. And he really pushed that all the time, that you listen to Prabhupada, you follow Prabhupada. And because of that, it was amazing, that he was pushing Prabhupada all the time. And now that he's gone, I think I can disregard that instruction to some degree and listen to his lectures.
I was at Glastonbury Festival with Tribhuvanatha's group, and that was my first experience. Tribhuvanatha was always, right from my very first experiences, first up in the morning and last to bed at night, always just finishing off those last few rounds. He represents to me the Krishna consciousness movement that I joined in 1972, and he somehow managed to carry with his energy and spiritual determination the youthfulness that was seeming to drain away from myself and others around me. He still managed to sustain that youthful spiritual energeticness. Kirtan was always just as vibrant and as vigorous right to the very last time I joined in Kirtan with him.
He knew exactly what he was doing, where he wanted to go, and what the purpose of his life was. He never, this has been said, many devotees have said that, but for me, he was one of the few, if the only remaining devotees that has never changed that mood of Srila Prabhupada. And as he was then, we were all like that, and he seemed to just remain like that, only he became more and more like stronger and more effective to people, but that mood was still the same. And when you were in his presence and the kirtans, whether it was Mangalartik or late at night, the whole temple would start, moving with the energy of his kirtan, and it was just so wonderful to be part of that.
Do you remember the tent poles in the Trip to Tip, when the entire festival was full of drunken Irishmen, boys and girls, and they even climbed up the tent poles trying to pull the tent down, and actually, yeah, it came down. And it happened once, 1 year, it happened another year, and still you kept going back. You were never put off by people's reactions, but you saw it as a challenge. Everything you took on, you took it right in the face. You shrugged your shoulders and kept on going. And perhaps the fact that you never took sannyas made you so much accessible to everybody. There were no social barriers between you and those around you. In fact, you broke down those barriers. And even now, I think you're breaking down barriers even now.
But one thing I always remember, Prabhu was very kind to me. used to take all my money away, all my cars, all my computers. But one thing you never minded that, because you knew if there was anyone that was going to use this in the proper way, it was him. Because he actually depended on Srila Prabhupada, his spiritual master, and the Supreme Lord Krishna. He wanted to see them glorified. And that was where his peace of mind, his big, all-encompassing heart came from. That faith, that deep devotion to his Lord and Master.
Manner, many years ago, when Hansadutta Prabhu came as the GBC, Tribhuvanatha Prabhu somehow or other was felt perhaps to be maybe a threat to the management style of Hansadutta Prabhu. Tribhuvanatha was put on punk bashing duty. For those of you who ever made spiritual sky incense, you know you had to stand out in the filth and the muck, beating all the incense sticks to get the dust off them and dipping the spiritual sky incense. But I was shocked and horrified to find that Tribhuvanatha Prabhu was actually doing this. I asked him, Prabhu, how come you're doing this? You're such a good preacher. Why are you doing this? And he explained to me that Hansadutta Prabhu had engaged him in doing this. And he had so much more wonderful duties to be performed than bashing these punks. But Tribhuvanatha Prabhu never complained about it. He never criticized Hansadutta Prabhu for doing it. But he took it very humbly, and he stayed doing that service for quite some time. He was very humble in that.
You were like the James Bond of ISKCON, and in many ways you were empowered by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Gauranga. Amongst many countries that you left your legacy, you have ventured where most dare not to go. The Gulf, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, Egypt, and succeeded in printing of the Bhagavad Gita as it is in Arabic. You risked your life and were falsely arrested and imprisoned and being tortured, not being able to lie down in your cell because the cell was not high enough. You had to just simply lie in this stone-cold cellar for a month in hellish conditions in Damascus, Syria. This was a mistake, for you were wrongly being called a spy.
Impression was from knowing Prabhupada, and as I got to know Tribhuvanatha, I realized that this here was a real exemplary individualist, I could say anarchist. I saw that he had such an extraordinary preaching spirit, and although sometimes devotees or committees, management council would ask, can't we hold him sort of accountable? And we would try, but that wasn't really so possible to keep him accountable for what he did, things like plans, Lakshmi, things like that. But I wasn't excessively concerned because I was very convinced that Tribhuvanatha was a devotee that Srila Prabhupada very, very much loved, very much liked, particularly for his extraordinary preaching enthusiasm. And that was one of the major things which set Srila Prabhupada apart from other Vaishnavas, is Prabhupada's extraordinary preaching spirit. And I saw that Tribhuvanatha embodied that preaching spirit.
Our revered godbrother Tribhuvanatha Prabhu, he was preaching in England and Ireland and Africa in the last 15 years or so. Before that he was preaching in the Middle East and India and so many places. So he would often go, for 2 days without any sleep or eating or anything. He would go on leading kirtan for hours and hours together, so his voice. So he lived a glorious life. And many people used to say to him, well, you should slow down, you'll get sick. But he wasn't in his nature to stop serving Krishna even for a moment. Our godbrother Tribhuvanatha, he worked hard day and night and preached and made so many festivals and made so many devotees. He had a very clear understanding of all the principles in Prabhupada's books. And he was fearless in every respect. He wasn't afraid to go into universities with all professors and just preach Krishna consciousness very straightforwardly and say all evolutionary theory is all bogus. And without any scientific background or just with the teachings of Bhagavad Gita as he'd heard them from Prabhupada, he'd just defeat everyone. And they'd be happy because he made many people happy because he was so happy in Krishna's service. So definitely he got the full mercy of Srila Prabhupada. he often didn't chant all his rounds in the morning, but then in the morning, it wasn't that he was sleeping all morning. He'd be cooking for the devotees or driving to go to another festival site, or he'd be up all night doing kirtan. He often did that at festivals. So he was fully engaged, high intensity in the preaching mission. So in this way it's clear that he got the full mercy of Srila Prabhupada.
He just had such an infectious enthusiasm and determination that just everyone loved him. He was like the six Goswamis. The six Goswamis were friendly among the ruffians. It was the same with Tribhuvanatha when he used to do these festivals, Glastonbury Festival. Just some of the most degraded characters, just seeing Tribhuvanatha would just become so inspired by his kirtans, by his talks. He used to inspire, so many people, devotees that maybe other people had given up on, they maybe weren't following so well. Tribhuvanatha Prabhu would manage to engage them, inspire them. He had so much love for Prabhupada. It was just, I've never seen anything like it.
Just before he went to Brazil, we were doing a festival in Brighton, and it was attended by about 300 people, and we were very fortunate that Tribhuvanatha also managed to go there and bless us with a lecture, and he also joined in the kirtan briefly. So we were saying that after the festival we were all very happy with the outcome, and at that point in the dressing room downstairs in the venue, just a few of us, he was explaining how, what he actually said was that he said that the festivals are, he said they're all I'm about, and they're all I've ever been about, and please keep the festivals going, and I'll always be there. And he also said that Narada Muni would also be there at the festival. And then he said that it looks like a bunch of people jumping around having a good time, but it's actually Lord Chaitanya's trick. Krishna's entering their hearts, just like someone, if someone unknown entered your house and you don't even know. So in a similar way, Krishna's entering the people's hearts, and this is a plan of Lord Chaitanya. That was like his last instruction to keep the festival program going.
And Dr. Bansi said actually it's quite severe, and I don't really want to give you this news, but it's terminal, and there's really actually no cure for this. And the doctor was amazed because Tribhuvanatha just laughed, and he said, I'm not in shock. I've been speaking about death for the last 30 years, and now when it's my turn, I'm not really afraid for it. So he wasn't frightened at all, and the doctor was shocked. The doctor later told me, he said, this is a very special person. I said, why? He said, because when I was doing a few tests and various other things, the anesthetic never seems to work on him. I said, yeah, he's told me he's been cursed never to sleep. So even when you try the anesthetic, he's not going to go to sleep. So he said he's a very, very special person as such. Generally when I was with him, I'd spent a whole day at the hospital just sitting with him because we'd be waiting for hours for various things. He mentioned to me that he was very strict in his spiritual practices. And I said, why is that? He said, when I came back, he said, I left for a little while, but when I came back I made a vow that I would be very, very strict. So he said to me, he said, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, never give Maya an inch because she will take a mile. And he really took that to heart, because whether it was a little bit of caffeine or something, he wouldn't have it. He wouldn't have it. He was so strict in his practice. He made a vow to chant 25 rounds every day after that, when he came back. So he never slipped up on it. Even to the last day, he was having difficulties, but he was still chanting 25 rounds every day. And one time in hospital, he said, I get this feeling that Prabhupada is calling me. I said, what do you mean? He said, if I have to go, Prabhupada is calling me. And if he's calling me, I have to go. So I'm serving Prabhupada now, And if I die, I'll be serving him, whether it's somewhere in the spiritual world or he wants me to go somewhere preaching. I just want to serve him. I don't really want anything else.
At least it seemed a little bit precarious, the situation, the atmosphere. So I played Tribhuvanatha, I played Prabhupada Kirtan on a mini disc, and then we took rest. Then at 2:45, Tribhuvanatha shouted, he called me, and I jumped up, went to him, and he said, "Can you bring me some milk, please?" So he was always drinking milk, actually, about a third of a glass of milk at a time, cold milk. So I brought him the milk, and he started to sit up. He was extremely weak, and I helped him sit up. He was trying to take the milk. It was a little difficult for him, so I even had to help him drink the milk. And then he called me back after 5 minutes or so, and he was lying down and he said, "Gary, my breathing's gone funny. It's hard to breathe." And his breathing was actually, he was breathing just short breaths with difficulty. And then that was when he wanted to sit up, and I switched the light on, and he was sitting like that, sideways to the bed, and trying to breathe, trying to make him comfortable. I just felt that it looked very grave, so I started chanting the Maha Mantra, and Tribhuvanatha was looking. I started massaging his chest around the heart and chanting. I didn't know at the time because I was looking at him, and he was looking. He seemed to be looking towards the picture of Prabhupada. He was looking very. He was completely peaceful, and completely fearless. His eyes were wide open, and then his eyes seemed to open quite wide, as if he was seeing something. And then it also appeared that he was focusing his attention, his consciousness, to go somewhere. That's what it seemed like. He was moving, and then he left, and I kept chanting, and it seemed that he left. I'd never seen anything like that before. I wasn't sure even, but the whole atmosphere was very, very peaceful, very still. You know, it was about 3 a.m, and I was just thinking, he's left. My friends decided to leave. You know, just like someone, if you're in a room with someone, they may just decide to leave the room. You don't know why. You didn't know they were going to do it. They just leave. So he's just left like that, and you don't know where he's gone, and he's not coming back.